everyone! Today I'm going to talk a little bit about organising meeting notes using Protolyst. And this is going to be a little less on how you actually organise the notes that you're taking in the page and more about how you connect them into a system so that you can use the information that you're acquiring in meetings. And so if you're taking notes which have all of those details in, the next step is for you to build a system that points those details to where you'll actually be able to use and apply them in your projects. So if you're completely new to Protolyst, here's a bit of a crash course, and there are two main things that you need to know: atoms and pages. And so in Protolyst, atoms are your highlights. So as you come across important information, you highlight the text and then this capture atom option appears. And when you save that highlight as an atom, it lifts it out of the page so that you can view and access and use it anywhere within your workspace. And in that way, we bring the details to the surface, so you haven't got to go and hunt through all your documents in search of those little nuggets of detail. And pages are any of the content or information sources that you add into your workspace. You can add your own typed notes, you can upload files, and you can import content from web pages. And when you have pages in tables, we also have an atoms property so that you can view any of the atoms that you've captured in a page within a table view. So if you'd like to learn more about Protolyst, you can take a look at our academy. Let's chat through the workspace setup now that you've got the basics. So I'm going to try something a little bit different today. I'm going to chat through a workspace that's already been prepared, and then we'll go through adding in some meeting notes and connecting the information to all the relevant places. And I'll put a build out of this setup at the end of the video. I'm going to focus in on an example in the context of research, such as having project update meetings with a supervisor. But the setup here could easily be transferred into other settings. So in this workspace, I've got 3 pages in the sidebar. The first one is meetings, which has been set up as a table. And this is where we'll be adding the meeting notes in, as well as uploading any of the presentations or info that we might be taking into the meeting. And this next page is the projects page. And I'm using this a little bit like an index note or a folder, in that here is where we can access further information on all the projects that I'm working on currently. And each of those projects is currently set up as a table. And in there, I've got just a standard table that you add into Protolyst, so it's got the atoms and subpages properties still there. And then I'm adding in the kind of different focus areas or almost tasks or activities for each project as its own row in the table. And on Protolyst, every row in your table is also a page. So this in itself could be turned into a bit of a hub for that kind of stream of activity or work as needed. And to get back to the projects page, I can click projects here, or I can use the breadcrumbs link at the top to get back to that projects level page. And then the final page in this workspace is my literature database, which I have built out in some other videos. I'll post that here. But at the moment, this just has the papers, a citation, which is automatically extracted when you upload the paper, and then the key takeaways, which are the atoms that have been captured from this paper. So that's the key elements of this workspace. So let's jump back into the meetings table. So you can see here I've got a row already in the table for the October catch-up with my PI. And I've also uploaded a presentation that I went through during that meeting. So let's set up the meeting for a November update with our PI. So I'm gonna add a new page into this table. I'm gonna open it up, hovering and selecting this button. Then I'm gonna give it the title, very imaginative, November meeting with PI. And then because this is a page that I'm going to be typing notes into, I'm going to set it up as a text editor page. As I prepare for the meeting, I can put together an agenda. We can recap on the experiments proposed last time, and I can look at the October notes and refer to those. Last time I also mentioned a conference, so perhaps I've got a conference presentation walkthrough, and that's going to be the whole agenda for the meeting, and then I'm going to have my notes section here. So if I jump back to that meetings table, I have that presentations column where I can upload any of the info that I want to have to hand for the meeting. So I'm going to upload that conference presentation that I've prepared. So I'm going to navigate to it in my file store, and then I'm going to grab the PowerPoint presentation, drag it onto this table. So if I drag it and drop it here, that will add it into my table as its own row. And I don't want that. I want it to be in this presentations column as a page linked to the November meeting page. So if I move my cursor to sit over that exact box, so if I drop it here, it will then start to upload my PowerPoint into Protolyst to sit here in the presentation section of this November meeting with PI. And so if I click on this, it will open up the PowerPoint presentation and I can scroll through and look at all of the info in that deck. And so how I like to go through meetings now is to have both the notes page open alongside whatever deck or material I'm also presenting in that meeting so that I can take notes on the fly. So let me go back to this meetings table. We're going to open up the November meeting. Because this page sits in a table, we can access all of the properties of that table in the properties menu. So if I open up the properties menu, which is this encircled eye up in the top right, it will show me all of the properties that I've added to the table, which at the moment is just this presentations subpage property. And so that I can see both pages, I'm going to open this in split screen. So I can do that by control clicking onto this page. And you can see that it's opened up next to my notes page. And then I can close this properties menu using the close button, these double right pointing arrows up here. So I've got my notes page open as well as my presentation. And so as I'm going through the practice run of the presentation, there might be various bits of feedback on each slide. And I can make use of atoms to add particular points of feedback as annotations to any of the text within my slides. So I can just highlight the text in the slide and use the capture atom button. And then I can add, points of feedback underneath. So make sure to include blah, 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 blah. So I've got my feedback, pointed at this particular slide. I can continue doing that for all the slides as we work through it. So to view all those highlights and the associated annotations that I've made during that meeting, I can go to the top right of this page and choose the atoms menu, and this will open up a list of all of the atoms that had been captured from this slide deck. And to close that menu again, I use that double arrow in the top. As conversations evolve organically in unexpected directions, perhaps we also talked about some further experiments and investigations I could do once I'm back from the conference. So if there were any notes like that, it would be useful to have it in this document. So what I'm going to do is highlight the text, and rather than hit Capture Atom, I'm going to drag and drop it into my notes page here. And you will see that the text that I captured has been added into the page, surrounded by these quote marks, and a numbered citation has appeared, and a references section has also appeared at the bottom. And so this numbered citation is a direct link between this document and where that piece of information has been lifted out of that original slide deck. And so I can carry on sort of typing underneath any ideas. Say there's another one here that we've discussed, and there's like some kind of takeaways. I can't type. So let me close the slide deck so I can focus in on the meeting notes using this cross button in the top right. Now what I want to do is move these suggestions into the corresponding projects and set them up as their own stream of activity in those project tables that I showed you earlier. And to do that, I'm going to capture each idea within this notes page as an atom. Exploring more components and the effect on the system, I'm going to want to add to my Coactivate project. I'm going to highlight all of that information and select Capture Atom. And you can see that the atom that I took from the slides has been included, and there's also citation or source link added into this atom. So wherever I am, I will always be able to get back to that original presentation and those meeting notes where this idea came from. So this has now been captured as an atom. So let me do that for the other one as well, the capture the atom. And I've captured these as atoms from this page. So when I go back to the meetings page, if I add an atoms property here, we'll be able to see all the atoms that I've captured from inside that page. So you'll see those two atoms that I captured from inside this meeting notes page displaying here. And the same has happened for this other meeting. Let's come back to these atoms, which are almost kind of like outcomes and actions from the meeting. And so where these bits of information are most useful is inside the corresponding projects. So let's make sure that they appear there. So what I'm going to do is click on this atom, and it will open up the atom box again. So we've got the text and that embedded citation. And what I'm going to do is use the linking bar up top to connect this atom into the corresponding projects table, while also creating corresponding stream of activity within that project, a to-do, if you will. So this particular atom relates to my Coactivate project. So I'm going to start typing out Coactivate. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. That's where my biocompatible Coactivate system project page is, and has all the other kind of to-dos or streams of activity that are related to this project. And I'm going to choose Add New Page because this is a new stream of activity that I'm going to go explore. So I'm going to choose that, and then I'm going to try 2 plus components. Add that as a page. And so you'll see that that new page that I created has come up here with a colored circle around it. And that means that this atom has been tagged to that page. So I'll be able to see that atom whenever I look at this page. And so let's repeat that for the other atom. So again, so this corresponds to my acoustics project. So we can see acoustic device design is at the bottom again, and I'm going to add a new page to that project. And add that page. Again, we've got that tag that has appeared. So this atom has been connected to that to-do over in that other table. So if I now go to my projects, open up the acoustic device design, you'll see that that page that I just created, the different patterns using trapping, is at the top of this list, and it has the atom displaying in the atoms column next to it. So I've got that, initial piece of information which has informed this stream of activity. And inside this piece of information is a whole load of links to all of the corresponding information which has led to this being a stream of activity for this project. So I could click this numbered citation and it will open up the presentation where we lifted that and captured that atom from. I can jump back there. I can also go back to the original source using this source tag, and it will take me back to the meeting notes where that atom was created. So I've got a connected or cross-reference setup with all of the information and background that has led to this stream of activity. So let's close that meeting notes one. And as I start to take action on those tasks, I can open up this page and set it up however I wish as a text editor page for me to type information into and add in different results as different page sections into that page. So we've tied the different actions and outcomes and tasks that we might be doing following a meeting into our project plans. So that's a bit of a taster as to how you can start taking that important info exchanged in meetings and tying it into different activities that you might be doing for your project, and how by using atoms you can start to build that network to be able to cross-reference where different bits of information have come from to be able to pull it together quickly. Okay, so let's talk about how you can put together the workspace that was used in the flow just now. So to add a page into Protolyst, you use the blue plus button at the top of your left-hand sidebar. And when you do this, you're presented with the option to choose from different page types. So I'm going to set this up as a table, and we'll make this the literature table. So you can add emojis using the smiley face icon here. And when you create a table on Protolyst, you're automatically given 3 properties in that table. The first one being name, then subpages, and then atoms. And since this is a literature table, I'm actually going to swap the subpages property by clicking on the title and then using the drop-down options and change it to a citation property. So I'm just going to update the title there. And then underneath the title, you can make that whatever you want. There's a series of options corresponding to the different referencing styles that you might like to use. If there are any others you'd like to see, do let us know. So I'll leave that as APA for now. And then to upload papers, you can grab the files from your computer, select a bunch of them if you like to batch upload, and then you just drag and drop them onto this table. And they'll be uploaded into the table, 1 paper per row, and the citation information will be automatically pulled from papers that you upload, which will also update the name or title of the paper in the name column too. So I'm just going to delete this extra row at the bottom, right click, and then choose delete, and then confirm. And then to start collecting atoms of the important information inside those papers, you can open up the page, which will open up the file that you've uploaded, so the paper. And as you're reading through, you can highlight sections of text and capture them as an atom. And then when you go back into the table, you can click the table in the sidebar, or you can use the breadcrumbs to navigate back to that literature table. You will see that the piece of text that we highlighted and captured as an atom is now displaying in this atoms property for the table. So you'll be able to see all of the info that you capture from a paper that's important or significant in this atoms property. And we have a couple of other videos on the channel showing you how you can make use of labels or tags to start to organize the information from your papers into different categories to get a nice table overview of specific bits of information that you're collecting from papers. We also have one which is more focused on collecting information for a literature review. So there should be some links to those videos on screen as well as in the description. So that's as much as we'll go into for the literature table. Next, let's talk about the projects page. So again, I'm going to add a new page, and I'm going to set it up as a text editor page so that we can use it a bit like an index or folder to contain other pages. So we're going to call this projects. Again, you can add an emoji if you like. But on text editor pages, you can obviously type your own notes into them, but you can also add different sections into a page. And to do this, you hover at the bottom of a section, and this add section menu, like a line with the little circled plus at the end, appears. And if you click that, you'll be given a series of different options to add different types of content into your page. And the bottom half of this menu also gives you the different page types that you can have within Protolyst. So I'm actually going to add an empty page. We're going to call this Coactivate for the Coactivate project. And then I'm given the option to set this up as a type of page itself. And in the workflow I just showed you, I had set it up as a table so that I could then have a list of all the different streams of activity or tasks or bits of information relevant to this project sitting here in the table so that I could easily see it and get an overview of everything to do with that project. But equally, you could set it up as any type of page that you wanted. So I'm going to click outside of this to close that. And now we're back in the projects page, and you can see that that page we just created, the Coactivate page, is displaying as a blue linked item in this page. And it has the table symbol next to it, so I know that it's a table page. And I can add another one, just as before, but this time I could even choose table straight from the get-go from this drop-down and set it up for the acoustics. And then in the workflow, I had added in a few different streams of activity here by typing in, device design, exploration, and then I'd added in a new row to the table using this new button. There's a couple of items there, and then every row in your table is also a page. So you could open up this particular stream of activity or to do with the device design. You can open that up and you can again set that up as its own page. So there's a lot of flexibility for you to do whatever you like. So I'm going to leave it as undefined and go back to the projects page using the breadcrumbs. And again, you'll see the acoustics page that we just added displaying there in the page. We can get straight to it by clicking on it. So you could do this for as many projects as you wanted. Now let's talk about the meetings table. So we're going to add it using that plus button again, choose the table option, and then give it the title. And I'm going to keep all these properties because we've got, the title of the meeting. We've got the atoms property, which will give us that at a glance summary of all of the key info that we've distilled as actions and outcomes when we've had the meeting and have reviewed the notes. And then the subpages property is the property type that we can use to add in things like the slide decks if we're doing any kind of presentations in the meeting, to capture the atoms from during the meeting as well. And then this wasn't in the workflow, but some other properties that might be of relevance are things like a date property. So we have a date created, which will automatically add the date that you create the page, as well as a date which you can choose from. And so that's the workspace setup for this workflow that was demoed. Of course, you can adapt and add in further properties and connections and linking between the different bits of information. Hopefully that gives you the foundations to build a workflow that works for you.